again to a new episode of Dr.Health720. Together with me I have Michael Danz, one of my colleagues from TimeWaver. And for this session we are going to discuss about mental detox and information field technology. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Dr.
I'm very happy to have you with me.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
For our program, I would like to ask you my first question, which is very much related to one of your life experiences, which made you embrace information field technology.
Yeah, it's a good point. So I talk about some practical experiences. Since I'm working with TimeWaver for 10 years, it's always hard to go in the past because there are so many events you could recall regarding personal business advices or also relationship advices TimeWaver gave. But recently, there was just a few days back, I had experience while I was about to move with my wife to a new property, to a house on the lake. And we thought about moving there, but the obstacle was a bit the price, because property on the lake is always a bit pricey, high price. So what we thought is that we will maybe ask TimeWaver, and we did, of course. In the beginning I was just looking at the place. I was trying to make a sense of it and imagine myself living there and everything, and we all liked it, of course, but then the price. So next day we said, okay, let's ask TimeWaver, and basically we had a whole list, but the main thing coming out was that I was lacking enthusiasm for the project.
Right.
So I thought maybe the price or some suggestions how to overcome my, financial barrier in my mind or something. But no, there was nothing like this. The only and main result was actually to work on my personal enthusiasm, which was lacking in regards to the project. So then what I did was actually I was changing my inner attitude in that regard, and I was changing my blockage of not being enthusiastic about it. Once I changed it, things fall into place.
And it took you 2 days?
Yeah, you would say it took me about a couple of hours to really become aware of, it's true. I really was lacking enthusiasm because I thought my, financial barrier was too important.
Right.
So then it was blocking me from this enthusiasm. When I changed it, and it was maybe in no time so much, but then now the response from the owner was very positive, and now we handed some documents, and it looks like we're going to move in a couple of days.
Beautiful. So we can see each other on the shore
on the
of the
lake.
lake.
Next interview would be then.
Beautiful. But having in mind your 10 years experiences with TimeWaver, can you explain in simple words what is the difference between quantum coaching and coaching?
Yeah, it's a good question, Bogdan. I'm myself a coach, and I went through the educational part of being in Germany you would call a certified mental or personal coach. But it is at that time when I did it, and it was a few years back, there was the emphasis on technology such as TimeWaver was not so much at that moment. So the difference, what I mainly found, because now I'm using TimeWaver in my coaching sessions, is that you have first of all, people trust technology. So when they see a result coming up on the screen, then there's not so much space for negotiation and arguing.
Right.
So if a person tells another person you might change something in your life, then they're always up for some arguments.
Right.
Yes, maybe it's your opinion, maybe you're right, maybe not. So it is hard to confront another person with a personal coaching advice. Right. But if it's black on white on the screen, people tend to easier accept it.
So it's a more objective process.
It's like a neutral mirroring. It is a mirror where people look at it and say, oh yeah, actually it's right. I see myself there, and I can't argue because that is just what comes out.
Yes.
So that is one big advantage I see, that you have a bit of a third neutral person sitting in a coaching triangle, which is TimeWaver at that point, where people cannot really argue. So they have to more or less accept TimeWaver as a neutral mirror, and that helps very much. And because it helps the coach to convey the message in a stronger way, it's more effective. So that is one advantage. I could, of course, come up with many advantages, maybe one more, because TimeWaver has the capacity to bring from this big space of unconscious patterns a lot up. So when, even what is unknown to me or to my clients, then TimeWaver brings up certain, you would say unconscious patterns, which is ruling and dominating my client's life for a very long time. And then for the first time in their life, they be confronted with this unknown content. What Jung was talking about, this shadow part of his personality, we don't want to look at. So now for the first time, these things come up, and they might be confronting and even sometimes scary. But dealing with this is a crucial key point in coaching work.
All right, Michael. My third question for you is related to meeting the, let's say, personal or professional objectives, major objectives. I mean, for this kind of objectives, how many sessions do you need to work with yourself, and especially with TimeWaver? I think it's very helpful because an objective which is very much at hand for you, you can act on it, as you mentioned, in 2 hours. Yeah. What if it's something which is business-wise and
more deep-rooted?
More deep-rooted, and how many sessions would be needed for such a
deep-rooted chronic problem?
Problem.
It's a good point. I mean, ideally, of course, you have one session and it's done. That would be, if that would always be the case, then of course it would be nice. But in reality, it usually takes a bit longer. I guess we can think of a human being as a bit like an onion.
Right.
Because if you peel an onion, you will realize that after one layer, there is another layer, and there's another layer. So until you come to the core of a person, it usually takes a couple of sessions. In the same way as if you peel away the peels of an onion to come to the core of what we want to maybe have. So you might start with a person in his business or professional environment. And once this is solved out, then let's say the personal relationship becomes problematic. And because then you use TimeWaver on that level, then maybe the financial side or relatives become relevant. So therefore, what I realized, it is a bit like you start like a domino effect. You start on one point, but then you open up a bit of a
Pandora box.
Yeah, and then you have another propping up. So it's rather the point when you stop. You could go, on for maybe eternity. But this is, of course, also not, because we also need to find a practical limitation to our work. So let's say if we are good with TimeWaver and if we hit the right points within 3 sessions, 4, maximum 5 sessions, we could also deal with deep-rooted business or personal matters. But we have to bear in mind, you never know what you open. If you open, this is like a treasure box in the positive and negative sense. So if you start a process, another part can open up, another part can open up. Depending also on the personal expertise of the coach, not just the TimeWaver, but also the coach, how deep and how quick he can pinpoint the issues, you can, in 3-4 sessions, hopefully be able to finish it.
Thank you very much. Having said that, like 3-4 sessions or even more for major objectives or immediate few hours.
Yeah.
How much would be the part of technology helping you achieve that? It's only for the scanning and bringing the information to your conscious mind, or it's a lot more because the technology is also working for achieving your objective? And how much is the client part and how much is the technology part in achieving the objective?
Okay, that's a good question. Using TimeWaver as an amplifier to reprogram the information field to establish or manifest the success in a coaching session, you cannot do it without the client's involvement. So that is a very good. That's a crucial point. So even if TimeWaver says, you should change your diet, you should not eat so much junk food, and then the client would still continuing eating deep frozen pizzas, and you just let the TimeWaver run in the background, that will not work. So you need the client's involvement, and in fact, the more the client is involved in that coaching cycle, also after the session, then the quicker we can establish success. TimeWaver though has a capacity now, especially with this new coaching module you might want to show later on your clients, where the client is live involved. You have TimeWaver as a mirror, you have the client, you have the coach, and you take 1.5 hours and you go step by step a certain sequence which TimeWaver is showing you, whereas the information field here and there plays a part in an analysis, coming up with root causes. But at the same time, the coach and the client, they're also creating their own, you would say, optimization plan for the future. So at the end of 1.5 hours, you'll come in combination with analysis from the field and the introspective work of the client to a whole concept of how to change the situation. So it is a mix. But you would say the client has to want it. That is the crucial point. If the client is objecting the success, is restricting the success, then you can send whatever you want. It will not have an effect. But if the client is on the other side willing, then TimeWaver can speed up and amplify the success rate, you would say, and quicker manifest. We program the field towards the healing rate, optimization direction of the process.
So it's a mixture. It's always a mixture.
It's always a
Probably
mixture.
730 or 60/40 or 50/50 from case to case.
It depends. You would say more than 50% lies with the patient's willingness.
Right.
So then I would maybe say one fourth is the therapist putting in his personal expertise and experiences in what direction the client should go, and maybe 1/4 is the work of TimeWaver in reflection in the field and optimization and emphasizing and amplifying.
Well, I think it's a
Like
balance. Yeah.